Good morning, America. Welcome to the Dr. Kent Show. It's early in the morning. Winter solstice today, December 21st, 2022. I'm losing track of the number of shows because I had to do a two-part. I think that was on my other channel. So I'm probably going to be skipping a number on one of the channels or the other of the channels. That's okay. I don't have to be perfect. I just need to move forward. The same as you. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to move forward. On Awakening Israel, we covered Isaiah chapters 1 through 9 and the fact that Yahweh commands in his Bible, and it spoke to me very clearly through the New International Version, that we are to love truth and justice in that order. Now, if it sounds familiar to you, maybe you watched the Superman shows years ago on television. The motto was truth, justice, and the American way. Well, sadly, the American way is not very honest, not very honorable, not very noble. As you can see by the corruption in Washington, D.C., and the corruption that has occurred throughout our nation. So I'm going to tell you right now, don't trust anything. Don't believe a word of anything you've heard or anything that's been said. The level of deception practice here today is so huge, so massive, that we will be undoing it, at least through our grandchildren. We will be undoing it. It'll probably take more than that. It might take 5 generations to overcome all of their lies, their evil, and their bullshit. You need to understand America is under attack. And we actually have been taken over from within. And the enemy has got their man in the White House. It's nothing new, folks. It's not just this jackass we have now. It's every one of them since President Woodrow Wilson. So the international bankers have been putting their men in the White House ever since Woodrow Wilson. That's more than 100 years. And it was through Woodrow Wilson and the honeypot trap they laid on Woodrow Wilson that they started the Federal Reserve, and they stole everything. They stole our land. They own you and me. They stole us. They stole our money. They've taken away our Constitution. They've deprived us of our rights. It's really bad. It's really wicked. So I don't trust a thing that I believe or a thing that I know. I question it. And I advise you to question it. Don't take it too far. Don't seek too much perfection, because this beast system is so massive and so detailed that it's going to be like an onion, and we'll be crying as we unpeel layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. Many layers to this onion. I only have one product. It makes an excellent Christmas gift. Buy it for yourself, though. You need this. You need to give yourself something. Buy this Bible. Proper name version of the King James Bible by, I think that says, well, it says down here, name publishing. Large print. I couldn't read it in the camera there. Okay. I can read it right there, right now. Get this Bible. This is a leatherette copy. Mine's not tabbed. If you're a beginner, get a tab copy. Make it easy on yourself. Everybody's entitled to at least one tab copy. But after you become a Bible reader and you read it enough, you should be able to find those books on your own. Flip to those pretty much. I am not able to do that. And I've read this thing probably, I don't think I've read it 15 times. I've read it across 15 years. More than 15 years. So I probably read it 10 times. I've read the New International Version, then I read a decent version of the Old King James and the Old English, and now I'm on to the new one in modern English of the King James Bible. And I know you're going to hear that that's the only good Bible there is. Well, I got news for you. The proper name version of the King James Bible puts the original King James Old English version to shame. This is far more accurate, and it's got God's name in it, which was taken out of the Bible in about the year 275 BC by Ptolemy II when he was translating the Bible into Greek and producing the Septuagint. Now, why did they translate the Bible into Greek? That's because most of the Israelites had been Hellenized. Most of them spoke Greek. And so in order to make this available to them, the Septuagint was produced. And of course, the English version was produced by King James. He commissioned it. He was not a nice guy. Yahweh doesn't have to use nice guys to do his will. He certainly used Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar said so. So Nebuchadnezzar brought judgment upon the house of Judah. Took Jerusalem apart. So folks, as often as I get upset by what's going on, and I want to strike back, I want to strike out, I have to remind myself that my God, Yahweh, is big enough to do anything and to take care of anything. And for me to strike out would be not cool, because it would be a sign of my lack of faith in Yahweh. Yeah, I know, this is the psychology show, and here I am preaching to you. Psychology means the study of the soul. And when the soul became separated from the body, when dualism occurred, was in the 1700s. René Descartes, a Frenchman, had been dissecting cats and animals and all that and publishing his books, color pictures and all of that, showing the organs. And he decided he wanted to skin the real big cat. So he hired a bunch of grave robbers, and they stole corpses. And in secret, he dissected and described the human anatomy. Now, he made a good living off his books, and he wanted to be able to publish about the human anatomy, but he couldn't do it without running afoul of the Pope, the Bishop of Rome. Matter of fact, he knew that his fate would have been, if he had acted without the blessing of the Pope, his fate would have been, he would have been burned at the stake, alive. So, René Descartes went to Rome, got an audience with the Pope, and René Descartes didn't know it, but the Pope already knew it. You see, the Pope has spies everywhere, just like today. I can't pick up my cell phone and show it to you because it's there in front of me, recording this. Yeah, the Pope has spies everywhere today, too. All of these intelligence agencies are connected and run by the same show, the same producers, the same playwrights, the same ugly bastards, the same antichrists. So René Descartes didn't know the Pope already knew about his book and the work he had done. And the Pope was a very wise man. He didn't bother to inform Descartes. My English teacher in Italy was wonderful. Elizabeth Aranzulla, Dr. Aranzulla. She is probably still alive today in England. She was not that much older than I was at the time. I turned 21 then. I believe she was about 28. She was a married woman. Yes, I found her attractive. She was tall. Man, was she bright. And did she teach me? I was mesmerized, not by her beauty, but by what she spoke, by her knowledge. And she told me things about my own family back then that I didn't realize. It took decades for me to put two and two together and figure this stuff out. She told me a lot. I loved the classes in Shakespeare. Her lectures were so good I couldn't take notes. I just sat there. And I'm sat in the front of the classroom in this old schoolhouse at Palazzo Antonori. Palazzo Antonio, whatever. Antonori, I think it was, in Florence, Italy. And these rich bitches in the back would be muttering among themselves. And I sat up front so they didn't bother me. and they were busy talking among themselves, and I was listening to my professor. I was probably the one she was lecturing to, as a matter of fact. There weren't many in the class. And she told me the story about Descartes. Very important story. Because the Pope, in his magnanimity, told René Descartes, he told the biologist, you may, so long as you recognize, I'm trying to say this right, it's been a long time since I was 21. So long as you recognize that the seat of the authority of the soul of man, so that it resides in this papacy, in this seat, then you may keep the body. You may have the body. And so we divided the body, and that's when dualism began. And that's what I was asked by my professor during my dissertation, boards, during my oral review. And I was so much fear, I locked up. And I knew the truth of that, and my professors didn't know it. Man, I would have blown them out of the water had I opened my mouth, but I was speechless. And he defended me. Oh my God, was I petrified by those guys. So that's when dualism began in psychology, in particular. So 1750 approximately. I think psychology began before that. I think the Greeks actually did study the soul. They demonstrated their knowledge in their plays. And by the way, today, what we have going before us is a play. It is the grand play being put on for us to keep us entertained and busy. That's right, folks. It's one giant distraction. And you got playwrights in the background. And you got actors in front of you. And by the way, their lead actor, one of their best actors, Dr. Donald John Trump, President of the United States of America. Well, you're going to get him again, folks. And I smile because he doesn't know Yahweh yet. He's going to know Yahweh. So if you know Donald John Trump, you can pass this word on to him. I do it myself. Back when we had a wonderful governor, Wally Hickel, I went to the hardware store and I bought a hatchet, and I got out some red fingernail polish, and I painted the name Budget, and I shipped it to the governor, Wally Hickel. He had been the Secretary of the Interior, I believe, before that. And I sent it to him and said, here's the Budget Axe. And I got a letter back from him a long time ago. Ah, man, I had fun with that one. And he did use it, as he said he was going to use the Budget Axe. Okay. I'm not going to do it this time, but I really should go to one of these big building box stores. I'm not going to hawk their wares for you. But I went there one time and I bought a set of knee pads for myself a long time ago. And I realized I was going to be doing a lot of work on my house. And this stuff was tearing up my knees to kneel on the concrete, on the tile floors. I mean, and I was over 50 at the time. So I bought these really wonderful knee pads. And that's what I should be buying. And I would send it to Trump. I think I sent him a Bible a while back when he was in office. Yes, I did. I got a thank you letter from him and Melania thanking me and telling me how important the Word of God was. Well, I got news for you. The Word of God, as we have it in the Bible, may not be the God you think it is. That's why it's important to know the proper name of Yahweh, the Creator Father, because God is kind of like a class, if you will. There are many gods, lesser gods. You don't believe me? Go read the Bible. Look at the Tower of Babylon, the Tower of Babel, actually. And you will see that Oh, heck, I lost my train of thought. I'll confess it right now. Folks, you do need to pray for this country. You need to pray for yourself. You need to work out your salvation, and we need to work on the salvation of this nation. There is a national salvation, and there is an individual salvation. Your salvation is going to be different than this nation's salvation, certainly at this point. And I want you to buy my Bibles, get them for Christmas, get yourself one of these things. This is all I sell, and I make a few shekels off this, just using worldly term. I make a few dollars off selling one of these. That's all right. I don't make as much as a bookstore makes when they sell one of these, and that's okay. But you're getting the best price anywhere. All of my Bibles, the ones I get credit for, end in 77 cents. You take the link down below, use that drop-down menu box, and you can choose any one of the formats. This is the large print. It's 14 point. It's wonderful. It's easy on the eyes. This makes a good family Bible. You know, put in your marriage in the doggone thing and use it like we used to use Bibles in this country. We wrote our marriages in the family Bible. We wrote our births in the family Bible and deaths in the family Bible. And when we walked into court, this was our witness. It was our marriage license, death certificate. It was all of that stuff for us. You want your republic back? Read my Bible. You want your rights? Buy my Bible. You want to be able to have your own conscience? Read my Bible. Program it up properly. My God, we're walking in the footsteps of the evil ones that are written about in here. And we shall suffer the same fates that they suffered, only it's going to be bigger this next time. It's going to be far worse. They're doing their best to launch a nuclear war. We got jackasses in office. This administration is nothing but evil ones. Most of the Congress is filled with evil ones. Most of your senators are evil ones. And they're protected by the evil ones known as the FBI. The purpose of the FBI is to babysit politicians so they don't get in trouble and they can live a law unto themselves. So they can go out and screw around and maybe even have a car accident while drunk. And their pregnant aides pass away, drown, as they abandon them in the car and don't return until the morning. That man should have been tried for the murder. What was her name? Joanne Kapechny? Autopsies were required by the laws of the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at the time. Chappaqua, the bridge. Teddy Kennedy, the lion of the Senate, the son of a bitch that oversaw the change in laws that brought in all of these incompatible outsiders and watered down our seed, watered down our culture, weakened our nation, did not strengthen it. In order to overturn the law of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and not have an autopsy performed on Joanne Kapechny, the Kennedy family appealed to the Pope, to the Holy See, the guy in Rome, the head of the Catholic Church, who somehow or other, by a miracle I guess, got the law waived so he didn't suffer the embarrassment of the fact that he had knocked up his aide. She was pregnant. He didn't kill one person, he killed two. And according to Nostradamus, there were three brothers, and two were meant to rule, and one was not. He wrote about the Kennedys. And he also wrote about Hitler. He wrote about Hitler as well in advance. He used a different kind of calendar for his astrological science. He used 13 signs. The Frenchman did quite a bit. He actually may have given us a tip as to the correct number to be using. And of course, we had 13 colonies, 13 states, and there are 13 stars in the emblem. And I believe there are 13 stars at the feet of the symbol for Israel in the Bible. The symbols are important, folks. They're more important than the words. Let's go look at the Ukraine. Now, I'm going to put this up on my blog so you can see it, but it's not up yet. So you go to Giving Psychology Way and the history of the world in one picture. In one picture, you're going to see the history of the world. GivingPsychologyAway.com. And I'm probably going to make a tab of it because it's that important. When you see that picture, it will explain what's going on in the world today and what happened in the past. It will help you immensely and help free you up because they've got you all brainwashed, all mesmerized. You're totally controlled. Everything that you believe, including in the sciences, is pretty much a lie. Anything they could do to obscure the science and the language and make it harder for you and I to understand things, they've done. They've deprived us of common knowledge, if you will, of common sense. Did you know that viruses were once called ectoderms until about 1897? And then they were renamed to hide their true nature? So that you and I would talk about viruses today rather than ectoderms? Yes. Did you know that germ theory is not all it's cracked up to be? There's a lot more going on. This creation is far more electrical than it is biological, biomechanical. It is more electrical. It is an electric universe. We're held together by the electricity. And this universe rebirths the earth on a regular cycle in order to maintain this whole thing so it can go on and on and on. It gets recycled. A day of the earth, an earth age, a day in the life of Yahweh is different than what you and I celebrate here, what you and I get to live here. Yes, it's in the Bible. And psychology means the study of the soul. So it's time you unlocked the wisdom and knowledge in the Bible. It's the only way you're going to get your country back. You and I have been handcuffed. We are limited. We can only fight a psychological war at this point. A spiritual war. That's all you and I can do right now to defend ourselves. Why? Because we have erred. We have sinned. We've broken the laws. The natural laws, the 10 Commandments. We've broken all of that stuff, and there's no forgiveness on it, folks. You suffer the consequences thereof. That's all there is to it. And we are about to get sodomized. We become sodomites. And that wasn't the main sin that the Sodomites committed, by the way. That's just what they were notorious for. That's what they were noted for. Bungering up each other in their assholes. Okay? That's what they were noted for. But if you read carefully, you will find that their characteristics were much, much broader, much, much worse. They were absolutely horrid people with horrible laws, horrible rules and regulations. And Yahweh worked with them for at least 4 centuries before he ordered the Israelites to kill them all. So when you say that the God of the Old Testament was mean, look, there were genetic abnormalities in those peoples. They were descendants of Cain. And as a result, they were named after those genetic characteristics. The Anakims meant long necks. Oh, they have the same 14 bones in their necks just like we do. Just like giraffes do. But just like giraffes, they had long necks. So they were called long necks, basically. They were giants. So, folks, there was something wrong with them. And they had done evil and practiced evil in the land. And Yahweh did not want his people, his children, doing those practices. And he tried to get them to change their practices. As he said 5 times in the Bible, they were doing things that never even entered his mind. And by the way, they had one of those ceremonies here on our land. They did it twice. It was so popular. They did it a few days later. They did it first on a Monday, and then they redid the whole damn ceremony on Thursday that week. And that was July 3rd, 1933, in the middle of the country on Soldiers Field in Chicago. Go look it up. There's a video about it. You got real video about it, so you can see what they did. Okay? And when you see that, go read about it in the Old Testament. Go read about what they did. Sacrificing their children, passing their sons and daughters through the fire. Go watch the video. I'm not putting it up. If you see Getty Images, as like a watermark on the video, you got the right one. And they wrote about it. And they wrote about who sponsored it and who put it on. And I want you to understand that they actually did that. They didn't recreate it. They actually performed the damn ceremonies. They did that to dedicate the North American continent to their God, whose symbol is on the flag of the Ukraine today, whose symbol was on the banner that the Khazarians went to war under, whose symbol was on, who represented Moloch, who was also called Baal. Same fight between good and evil. It's going on in the Ukraine today. So this is kind of a wild history lesson, and I'm going to cut this short, because I think some of you need to rehear what I just said. You need to play this once again. And you need to get this word out. You need to share this far and wide. Please like this video. Oh, if you don't like it, go ahead and hit the do not like. That, I understand, helps the algorithm as well. I'd prefer you liked it, though, and I'd prefer you subscribed. I'll try to give you a Dr. Kent show, the Dr. Kent show every day. I'd like to give you a full hour. I used to be on AM radio in Arizona out of Phoenix. They more than tripled the cost of that, and it's just not worth it. I can't generate enough money to pay it. $450 an hour is what they wanted for the time that I used to get for $150. And the guy that's on there, he's changed the name to the Pulse of Arizona. It's the dead Pulse of Arizona. The guy's a rhino. He's a fraud. He pretends he's conservative, and he pulls the rug out from conservatism all the way. But it's just like the rest of the nation. You are owned. The Chi-Coms out-manufactured us, and they outproduced us, and they bought us out. They own us. They own most of our... We have the finest congressmen money can buy, as Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens wrote. Nothing's changed, folks. The Chi-Coms own it all. They got their man in the White House. Their man has the seal of approval of the evil one. The evil ones and his children have taken over America from within. You aren't the land of the free, the home of the brave. You are the land of the fee, the home of the slave. The Asiatics refer to us as slaves. They look at our system for what it really is. They see clearly that we are enslaved. We have been taken captive. And rather than move us to another jurisdiction, they brought another jurisdiction here and superimposed it on us while pretending that we're still free men and citizens and we have rights. And they took those rights away with the Patriot Act. It has nothing to do with protecting America. We were attacked from within. It was partly an inside job and partly an outside job. It was explained to me by a CIA contractor. I was younger then, and he was much younger than I. He explained to me the nature of his business. I asked him about 9/11, and he said it was partly an inside job and partly an outside job. It could only be done if there was help inside and it was done outside. And he figured it was all set up and run from Canada off a laptop computer. Now, I didn't do any research on that. Don't say that's the truth. I'm just telling you his story, his report to me. I'm just telling it to you straight ahead. And the man was very distraught. He was suffering a physical ailment that took him out of work. He was disabled, and he was young. And he had also watched the video of the death of his mate. She died defending the crown prince's children, which was what her job was, what she was paid to do. There were 4 attackers. She took all 4 of them out before she died, throwing herself upon the concussion grenade, taking the full brunt of the force, saving the Saudi prince's children. We do produce good men and women in America, folks. We produce some of the best. But because we do not know our left hand from our right hand, because we cannot tell our left from our right, just like the people in Nineveh, because we're that stupid and that stupid innocent, we need a little help. I guess I'm all you got. Folks, you're not going to have me forever. I've lived most of my life. That's for sure. I don't have half of it in front of me. Unless some of this wonderful technology that exists comes out from secret, unless the good guys prevail and some of that stuff comes out, and I've seen enough. It's been rough enough. I wouldn't want to be doing this forever. Let's put it that way. The Kent family brought the world a lot. We gave you the original 1611 King James Bible. We gave you the plays of William Shakespeare. We gave you patented land which could not be attached, it couldn't be taxed, land to which you owned all of the rights above it and all the mineral rights below it. You owned everything, just like it was from our ancient homelands in Israel. That land was to be passed on in perpetuity. You weren't supposed to have certificates of title or even title. They bankrupted us and defrauded us and pulled these shenanigans on us so far that you don't get a title anymore. You get the certificate of title. We used to have land patents. If anybody wanted to challenge it, they could. And we welcomed the challenge. And it was investigated. And when they found the original patents, the alloidial title, I have trouble saying that word, alloidial title to the land, then the governor of the state usually was the one that signed off certifying, hey, it's yours. The banks couldn't even lend money against it. Couldn't get a mortgage. Nobody could tax it. No, if somebody had a claim against you, they couldn't attach your property. They had to go to court and form a trust with you to get it worked off and get it repaid. We were free men. We were meant to own our individual land and thus stay free. It was like when we had gold and silver for money, real stores of wealth, not debt notes, not notes of slavery, not fraudulent notes, not bank fraud, not money magic, not fractile banking, not for deposit, or for deposit only, or for deposit without recourse, which is what's on the back of a lot of your mortgages, which means that they can't get any money from you once you recognize and declare their fraud. Yes, folks, they stole everything, including you and me. They own it all because we allowed their fraud. It started under Woodrow Wilson. They did the honeypot to Woodrow Wilson. Mrs. Peck must have been a hottie. My God, because here we have this man, the President of the United States, writing love letters to a married woman. Her husband was in on it too. It was a setup. And as a result, he took us to World War I. He gave us the Federal Reserve. He gave us the predecessor to the FBI. He gave us a lot of stuff that lines up with the Communist Manifesto. He gave us pretty much the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. Put all that in place. Yes, folks, we have become the beast, the last and the greatest of the beast system. America is in the Bible for good and for evil. We were the great nation prophesied by Israel the man on his deathbed with his boys. We are descendants of Manasseh for the most part, but we have all the tribes here, and we have a huge amount of Judah here. Probably had more of Judah here than any other tribe here. We were the great nation. We inherited the seed. Another group inherited the scepter. That was Germany. And whenever a pope, whenever the Holy See, the Bishop of Rome, needed a champion, he got a Kraut. He always made a German the Holy Roman Emperor because those boys could fight, and they were smarter than the rest, better than the rest, and more powerful. Except for one. Manasseh was thought to have been as powerful, or maybe even more powerful, than Judah physically. They were definitely sons of Israel. I invite you over to my other channel, Awakening Israel. We get into reading the Bible and covering that. That's the most important thing. You need to understand that this nation derived all of its laws from the Bible. When we were founded, we pulled for laws from the book of Deuteronomy, and most of that's repeated in the book of Leviticus. And those laws were the law of the land until one state decided to improve upon it, that being the state of Pennsylvania. They decided in their wisdom that death was kind of a harsh punishment for the crime of adultery. So they decided to be magnanimous, and they changed the punishment to merely 10 years in the stocks. I take it a bunch of Quakers did that. Whatever floats your boat, whatever your flavor of Christianity. I don't even like to call it Christianity. I call it churchianity. Yahshua himself referred to it as the faith of our fathers, and he also referred to himself as the way. It was good enough for Jesus Christ, whom I know as Yahshua the Messiah. It's good enough for me. So it is the faith of our fathers. It is the way. I need you to understand that we're so far away from the truth it's not funny. And by the way, somebody pointed out on Facebook, on Facebook of all places, that the first Christmas day they claimed was the hanging of the circumcised babies from the tree. That's not accurate. I found the reference in the Apocrypha books in 1 Maccabees, I believe it was. And basically on the 25th of the month, they killed the women who had circumcised their babies and killed their babies as well and hung them from their mother's necks, not from a tree's neck. You'll find the tree and the idolatry of the tree mentioned throughout the Bible as the groves underneath every green tree. And you'll find one of the major prophets mocking the tree as the work of our hands. And so Christmas was not legal in the American colonies or in the States when we started. It was illegal. It was a pagan holiday. They knew it for what it was, and it was illegal to close your shop up and celebrate that stuff. Jesus Christ, the Messiah, Yahshua, was not born in the dead of winter with snow on the ground. He was born most likely September 3rd or 4th. Maybe it was August. I don't remember. I've read so much. You can go look that up. But he was born. I think he was born, and his birth was celebrated during the Feast of Tabernacles. Anyway, I got to read the Bible and find out for myself. So Christmas Day actually is considered the birth of Saturnalia, or the god Saturnalia. In case you're wondering, it's believed that Saturn was our original sun and burnt out, and a wandering star came about and captured us, and that's the one we have today. So those people worship the original sun, which actually produced Venus, and the people on the earth get to watch Venus being birthed out of Saturn and Saturn's rings a long time ago. There's a lot to the story. There's a lot to this stuff. You need to understand that Apollo is also the name for the god of the pit, the fallen angel that rules over the pit. Apollyon in Greek, or Abaddon in Hebrew. That's in Revelations. And you need to understand it's got a lot to do with our real sun. And you need to understand that lightning falling from heaven to the earth is how Satan was described throughout the Bible. It's about 3 or 4 passages at least anyway that describe him as lightning falling from on high. And you need to understand that our sun will go off at the end of one earth age and the beginning of another earth age, which is shortly upon us. In case you're wondering, the best I can come up with is 2042, when the Earth's magnetic field, it is an electric universe, reverses. And there will be a giant shift on the planet. It will not be this big this time as it was last time. We're primarily going to see the forces hitting Europe and Africa. They're going to get decimated this time from those people who know more than I do. That's what they're saying. And last time it was North America and South America that got whacked really hard. So this isn't supposed to be as bad. And sometimes there's only been a few thousand individuals that survive it. This next time, the man that I respect the most, the young man, says that probably 50% of us will survive it this next time. There will be no electricity. And for you people who celebrate Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, and you have the menorah as your symbol, I want you to know that that's not a Jewish symbol. That symbol is found on the cave walls from the last Earth Age, from the survivors of that catastrophe, and they painted or chiseled the menorah upon the walls of the caves all around the world. It was one of the plasma displays that they saw up in the atmosphere, along with what they call squatting man. The electrical display is so intense, the storms are so intense that nothing electronic survives. However, there was a small people in Himalaya that I've heard survived it. They were really short in stature, and they were so far advanced that they actually produced some sort of a disc in cobalt that survived it. That's what I've heard. I really need to give the teacher Ray Akal. He's preserved the records of James Wigstrom. That's Ray Bunzo. I'd like to find out a little bit more about that. It's time I give Ray a call. He's getting older. His health isn't doing so good. I'm getting older. My health isn't doing so good. Pray for America. Pray that we return to Yahweh. Pray that we realize that we are Israelites in dispersion, that we have been driven to the countries of the world, and that we are the real deal. We are the chosen people. But at this point, we've been chosen for destruction. And about a decade ago, according to Alex Jones, the Bilderbergers declared that they were going to take down America. And people cheered and said, let the Americans have what's coming to them. And other people cheered and said, let's wall them in and make sure they never can get out again and cause their mischief. I don't like that wall. I don't think we need it. If I was president, I'd declare war against Mexico. A limited war. I'd send in my special forces and tell them, take out the garbage with prejudice, meaning destroy the drug lords, take out the corruption. I'd give them carte blanche, and then I would tell my army, you go down there and you administer justice. I'd tell them we're going to build up their oil fields, we're going to build a pipeline, and we're going to pipe that oil right up to Yuma, Arizona. And we're going to build a refinery in Yuma, Arizona. And we're going to see to it that there's no sabotage on that pipeline. We're going to tally all of the illegals that are in the country. We're going to tally up all of the benefits they have stolen from the American people. And we're going to present Mexico with a bill. And we are going to take that crude oil from them and pay them for it. And when they are done paying off their debt for all of those benefits that they've stolen from us, then we'll make sure that they get the rights to that oil. Now, I'm also going to take all the land of Mexico from the southern boundary of Arizona straight across, and I'm going to enlarge Arizona, the states of Arizona, and the states of California. That land will become a buffer zone between us and Mexico. We don't need no frickin' wall. It will be a felony to enter the country illegally, and you will not be allowed back in as part of the sentence on that. And Arizona will have a port city in the Gulf of California, or is it the Gulf of Cortez? The Sea of Cortez. I don't remember these things. But you need to know that there's an island out there, and on that island there's a weird snake that exists, that species of rattlesnake is only on that island, and it's that island that holds the key to the San Andreas Fault, all up and down our coast. And that's not the biggest fault to worry about. The biggest one are the Cascades, which are off the coast, off Washington and Oregon, because when that one goes, San Andreas follows. But every time there's an earthquake at that island, deep in the sea off that island, the Island of Angels, I believe it's called. Every time there's an earthquake, and the last time there was, it was felt all the way to Phoenix, Arizona, that the San Andreas Fault shifts a little bit, because that's where it basically begins. And the Russians have got an incredible weapon that's designed to touch off our San Andreas Fault. And if they use that, there's no stopping it. You can't take that one down. You can't take it out. And they will blow the San Andreas Fault. And Los Angeles and Hollywood will go into the ocean. And there will be one hell of a tsunami. If that's what they do. That's a possible future for us, folks. Or it may just be that when the poles reverse anyway, that we get that. Right now, there's more volcanoes exploding than at any time during our lifetimes. And it's going to get worse. That's part of the nature of the end of the earth age. Have you heard about the subconscious? Carl Jung wrote about these things, and I didn't like Jung very much. It's been a long time since I've talked about this, so don't expect me to remember. But Carl Jung said that we have a collective memory filled with archetypes and traumas of the past. And I think there was a lot to what Carl Jung said. And I think that if we access that, we'll realize that a lot of us have memories of these things. We'll realize that there are records of those, that we can all sense what's coming, and we know it's big. Well, in case you didn't know what it is the rebirth of the earth. And the end of the earth age, as the Navajo bus driver told me this summer when I had a discussion with him outside the gate to the Petrified National Park. He says it's going to be bad for everything, everyone. Bad for everything on the surface. Yes, the Navajos remember this stuff. They've handed down those tales, those in their tradition. You really should turn to them and ask them about some of their things, like when men live separately from women and the problems that cause. They have some incredible stories. They also knew that ducks carried a virus that caused birth defects, and they knew that way back more than a century ago. It took us almost a century to figure it out. Well, if you've joined me, I appreciate it quite a bit. I hope that you'll enjoy each day as the sun increases in length. I think this is going to be the end of the cold weather in some places. Other places are going to go colder yet. This global warming is a hoax. Everything is shifting around. We are headed for an ice age. It is imminent. And if I could recommend one thing to you, is toss away this idea of global warming. Toss away this idea of carbon being a pollutant. All life on the earth is carbon-based, except maybe some at the vents of some of these undersea volcanoes. That could be possibly silicon-based life, but life is carbon-based. There are 4 poles, like a giant cross, if you will, represents life on the earth. The carbon increase is a result of the warming, which is a result of the solar activity and a result of our solar system's place in its ride around the Milky Way. So this happens every so many thousands of years. We've been here before. We've done this before. You need to understand that the science has been withheld as best it can be. It's been obscured, withheld from the masses because they don't want you to know the truth. My recommendation as a descendant of Joseph, I got my robe on. It's not multicolored. Cool. It's artificial stuff as well. It's not a natural fiber. It was on sale cheap. If I could recommend to Pharaoh anything, it would be that he get prepared for the deep freeze. I would say you better get the oil out of the ground. You better shield everything you can from electrical damage. You better isolate things from possible earthquakes and catastrophes and volcanic activity. And you better get ready, because you're going to need to be able to have a source to heat yourselves, because it's going to go way cold. And it's going to be an instant freeze. That's what's happened in the past. That's why you find frozen mastodons intact with the cud still in their mouth. They didn't even have time to spit it out. They didn't even have time to exhale or inhale. It was an instant freeze. We might get that this time, I don't know. But one thing's for sure, it begins with the sun going micronova. And it ends with the sun, with a giant solar flare. So we're looking at a period that's going to be several months long. So don't worry that it's going to be a giant ice cube for thousands of years. It's probably not even going to be a year. It could last days. It could last a few months. It could be 9 months. After all, it's the earth being reborn. The earth is giving birth again. And by the way, according to the Bible, the apocryphal part of the Bible, the earth produces weaker children towards the end of the earth age. And at the beginning of the earth age, the earth's children are stronger. You're always going to be earthlings. Most of your genetic material comes from Mother Earth. It comes from the stuff that surrounds your body. You aren't born with it. So you are only able to exist on this planet. You're an earthling. And it's for good reason. Most of your genetics come from your bionome, come from the stuff that surrounds us, comes from the parasites, comes from the earth, comes from the things that we eat. Most of it comes from the organisms that inhabit our bodies as well. You need to understand that we're called earthlings for a reason. And the earth is our mother for a reason. But we're not supposed to worship the God of heaven. That's one of the sins that they did in the Old Testament. And a lot of you are doing that through your parallel construction, especially in the Catholic Church, which was the Church of the Antichrist. That church, unfortunately, was founded by Simon the Sorcerer of Acts, not by Simon Peter, the Apostle. Yes, folks, it's in the Bible. You need to read that. The first bishop of Rome was crucified. The guy was so sly, he talked them into crucifying him upside down because he wasn't worthy to be crucified right side up. He knew that he would die quicker if they inverted him. So they did, and he died quicker. That's who you've built your church upon. It was a Mesopotamian priest named Simon the Sorcerer, or Simon Magus. And he walked in the spirit of gall and bitterness, just like Cain did. Folks, you need to understand a lot of things. Join me on the other channel for Bible lessons. Buy my Bible. Support my show. Share this thing far and wide. Let's get people working towards saving America, towards restoring our republic, which was stolen from us gradually over time. And in case you're wondering, the Republican Party, the radical Republicans of Abraham Lincoln, destroyed the republic. That's the same party that exists today. And George Washington warned us against the party system, that it would be the end of us. And it certainly has been a long, drawn-out death, has it not? May Yahweh bless America. May America bless Yahweh. May we return to Yahweh. May we restore our Constitution. May we save ourselves, our children, our land. May we save the rest of the world from these evil ones. We, the United States of America, the people at least, are all that stands between the little guy and the evil ones. If and when they take us down, they got the rest of it carte blanche. That's why they're focused on you. That's why they're focused on all of us here in North America, in the United States of America, because we're the descendants of Adam through Seth, who was born after Abel, who was murdered by his half-brother Cain. And that's the fight. The war is between the sons of Cain and the sons of Seth. Seth was fathered by Adam. Cain was fathered by Gadriel. If we shorten his name, we get Gad, or God. They threw us off with that. They deprived us of the name of Yahweh and gave us God instead. That's why this Bible is so miserably important. You got to get this. You got to learn his name and call upon it, just like men began to do in the Old Testament. I think that was in Genesis chapter 4, the last line. And it was at that time that men began to call upon Yahweh. After we had screwed up, after the fallen angels were here, after Eve had been seduced by Cain and produced this hybrid with fallen angelic DNA, he got kicked out, went east to the land of Nod, the land of wanderers, took wives from the Mongoloids there, from the earthy men, and settled in the land of Canaan. And that's why the Israelites were told not to intermarry. That's why we're told not to commit adultery, not to cheat on our wives, not to cheat on our husbands, not to water down the holy seed, not to water down our seed. May Yahweh bless America. May you enjoy the truth this Christmas. And let's celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles when he was really born. And the wise men celebrated his birth too during a later Feast of Tabernacles, I believe. I don't know, I've got to read it and discover that for myself. We also have to realize that it was during the Passover that he was crucified. And years later, some other events occurred on that same day of the year. The evil ones don't do anything without major symbolism. They do things on the same dates. Gee, September 11th, 9/11. I wonder what happened on September 11th. No snow on the ground. Shepherds would be out with their flocks. Hey, I don't know. You let me know. When do you think Christ was really born? I'm going to say September 11th. What do you think? Put it in the comments. Over and out.